Hello humans, welcome to Frontline, a leadership and business podcast brought to you by Peregrine Corporate Services, an Isle of Man-based fiduciary provider. My name is Martin Hall, and thank you for listening. Today we're joined by Andy, founder of Dot Performance. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
No, pleasure. Appreciate taking a little bit of time out of your day, so we're all busy. I think, like we do with most guests, just to get to know you a little bit better, and the guests, the audience to get to know a bit better. Where did you originally grow up?
So I was born in the Isle of Man, Manx born, bred, yes sir. I tried to escape a few times, but I always ended up coming back.
Whereabouts on the island?
I grew up in Orton. We had a corner shop called Kelly's Corner Shop. It's gone now, but essentially we lived in the house adjoining to the shop, and so I grew up around this always open shop, if you like, and pretty much it was a small shop, but we sold everything we possibly could, a convenience store.
And for those who watch a bit of TV, did it have an arc-right till in it?
Yeah, it probably did.
Slamming shot on your hands.
Yeah.
I do remember that shop, actually. I didn't know you had that shop.
Yeah.
I do remember that shop, down towards Onken Park.
Yeah, so I grew up there. I think we bought it when I was 7.
Right.
And I think we left when I was 11 or 12.
Okay.
So it was a big part of my life back then, if you like.
What was your schooling? Where were you schooling?
I went to Balcombe, and then after that I went to uni at Edge Hill to study business and management.
Okay. What took you down the path of business management? Was that at that age?
I've always been interested in business. I guess in a way it's in my blood. Maybe because we grew up in the shop. So you're seeing transactions and you're stocking shelves and lumping coals and gas around to the front and things like that. I've always just been interested in business, and at A level it was definitely my favourite subject, business management, and I just seemed to get it, just naturally kind of get it. So it was obvious to me to study business and management at uni.
And where was the uni you went to? Sorry, where did you say you went to?
It was Edge Hill,
part
of Lancaster.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so it was a fairly it was only like 12 hours a week, so it was there where I started to study, and not so much study, try to make money. I was intending to be a .com millionaire at the time, because it was the .com boom. So I started to study websites and do that in my free time.
Okay, building them for I guess small businesses, maybe that type of things, family.
Yes,
friends.
Yeah. So we had my initial thing was a student site, and I got to grips with that, designing it, building it, and I started to wonder why nobody was coming to it. So then I started to study search engine optimization. That kind of thing, and then once I was getting traffic to it, I was realizing that the traffic weren't doing what I wanted them to do. So I started to study user psychology and conversion rate optimization, and it became kind of living in a breathing kind of passion, really, learning about all that. And then I started to get asked about doing that for other people. So I started to do some website services for people, that kind of thing.
Right. So interesting, the psychology side of things. Talk a little bit about that, because that's
So every website ultimately has a conversion rate, and the conversion being what you want them to do. So, for example, it might be join a subscriber list. It might be fill in a form, fill in a lead form. It might be make a purchase. It might be register for an account. So every website has one of these. It's the conversion rate, and it's really for businesses, it's the acid test of how effective that site is in terms of how many people actually complete the conversion. Now, your average website conversion is about 1%. So if you imagine for every 100 visitors, you only get one that do what you want them to do. But if you can look at the psychology of that and start to try and improve that conversion rate through things like changing languages, changing colours, changing imagery, that kind of thing, then you can get a much better conversion rate. So if you've got a site that's getting a 2 or 3% conversion rate, then you're going to get double or triple the people through from the same traffic. So what that does is it reduces your cost of advertising substantially. It makes the whole thing much more effective.
Interesting.
So yes, so that's been my kind of area of study throughout my whole career.
I'll dig into a bit more of that when we come on to chat a bit about dot performance. So when you finished at uni, was the plan always to come back to the island?
No, it was to escape abroad. So it was. I always wanted to live abroad at that time. So my first jaunt was to Cyprus, and I was actually offered a teaching job, but it really wasn't for me. You know, I think I spent an afternoon with a bunch of 5-year-old kids, and at the time I was like, no, this is not for me.
This is not me.
Yes. So I opened a business out there, and I got together with a graphic designer, and we started to do similar things to what we do today, really. And on paper it was going really, really well, but I started to understand more about the kind of business culture in Cyprus, and I was dealing with small businesses at the time, and when it came to getting deposits and payments and things like that, it was always kind of tomorrow, or go and see this guy because he owes me some money, you know.
Right.
And I was like, I'm not a debt collector. So eventually I returned to the island, and I started I was flat broke at the time, and I was still really interested in offering digital services, but for the Isle of Man. And where at the time my dad was like, "Oh, forget all this website nonsense, you know, and go and get yourself a proper job." So that's what I did. I became a management trainee at Durla, the ship management company, and I started their management program, which was really good. And I made some brilliant friends there. I met my wife there as well, actually, who's now a co-partner in the business. And but eventually, I wanted to get back to the thing that I knew really well, which was websites. And so when I started to think about the next career move, initially I was going to go into accountancy, which my dad would have liked, but I got offered an opportunity at Charterhouse up in Ramsey, who was essentially a contractor company. And so I joined them as online executive, spent a few years there, and became the online marketing manager. And they basically allowed me to take what I knew and develop that skill on their business.
Right.
And it went really well. You know, we were able to transform the way that they were marketing themselves and use new digital mediums and things like that to attract business in, and also service their customers as well. So, but eventually in the background, my wife's department at Durla were being moved to Germany. And so we decided we were going to make this move to Germany, and so I put a notice in on my job, and put a notice in on my house and all that kind of stuff. And at the last minute, her work permit fell through because of just the way the Germany work permits were at the time. And then so we were left homeless and
wow.
Without any income really.
Yeah.
But my intention was always to go to Germany and to open up a company. So I was already working on that in the background. I think I was 26 at this time, and we were really fortunate that Charterhouse turned around and said, "Well, we'll be your first customer." So that was a great start
Yeah, yeah.
for Top Performance that it is today. Yeah.
And and back then, was the thought always then to set up on your own and develop your own business, or was it kind of just the opportunity arrived?
No, so it's always been my plan to have businesses, if you like.
Yeah.
You know, I guess some people would say I'm not employable anymore. You know, but yeah, it's just it's just always been within me to have businesses, and so it was a really natural progression. So it was always a plan, and it will always be there for me, if you like.
Yeah.
You know.
And looking at it today, is it, looking back at that time, is it grow? I mean, it's a big firm now. Is it where you'd expected it to be now? Looking back, or looking forward back then, would you expect to grow into the size you are now?
Well, back then it was always just about being the very best at what you do, and I always had this kind of philosophy: if you're the best at what you do, and you're in the right environment, like the Isle of Man, they used to have this saying, freedom to flourish. Then I think you can do really well here. And so back then it was just about, I'm going to make the best digital agency that's possible, and I'm going to bring these new types of services to local businesses. And I guess over the years, it's still pretty much remained the same, although what we do is now much bigger, and the variety of services has changed.
Yeah, there's a lot of scope within that, because I think, and obviously maybe you could expand on this kind of bog standard, let's create a website, but there's I guess a lot more around that digital aspect of things.
Yeah, it's I mean the whole industry has changed dramatically since we started, because we started in 2006. And I think we're older than many of the big names that today, or a similar age, Twitter and things like that. So everything has changed quite substantially, and the interesting thing is that most people think it's got easier because as a user, things have become much easier to use. So people can publish their own content on Facebook and all of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Back then you couldn't really do that things. The public didn't really have a voice, or if they did, it was via traditional press and writing letters and things like that. So the whole world's changed, and but nowadays it's actually much more complex, because you've got so many device types and browser types, and you've got cybersecurity to take into account. It's a much more complex job than what it was back in 2006.
Yeah, and I guess certainly for you, for customers as well. Obviously, customers want to be heard, and your job's obviously help them be heard. And when there's so much noise, because there are so many channels to publish, you have to therefore also stand out, I guess, as well. Part of your
Yeah, I mean, I think the small businesses of the past, they didn't really have the media reach which they've got available today to them, so cheaply.
Yeah.
So back then it was the big players who were spending a lot of money in advertising. They won. But now what we're seeing, of course, is micro businesses and small businesses who can eat away at these big businesses' market share. And they can use the digital channels to do that.
In those early days of the business as well, did you have a particular, when you look at people setting up business, did you have a strategy and a strategy type of document, or did you just have this concept of, just getting clients on board, building those relationships, or were you a bit more strategic around it?
No, so back then it was, and still now really, it's about helping people, and so we have a product base nowadays, available products which we can roll out, but most of our work is still custom, so it's largely about discovery with each business, and sitting down with them and understanding where they want to go, what's not working, what they think might work, and also benchmarking competition and figuring out strategy for them. And I don't really care what we use. I mean, on staff, we've got branding people, design people, developers, marketers, and as such, if it's within our power to do so, it doesn't really matter what service we can offer to them, as long as it's delivering value and some form of transformation for them.
So we obviously cross paths within the Peregrine. We're rebranding at the moment, and I'm certainly aware of I believe the value of brand to businesses. It's always hard to particularly put a number on it, but if you kind of had to describe the importance of branding and what it brings to companies, how would you summarize that for people that may be thinking about that or thinking about their brand at the moment?
I think one of the biggest changes in branding in recent years is towards customer centricity. And those are the terms that have been coined, but really it's always been about that. But it's about really speaking to your customers about how you can help them as opposed to yourself. So it comes down to finding an accurate brand position and trying to be remarkable within your space. Yeah. I think remarkable is a really important word. Because obviously branding touches identity and design, but it's much more than that. So really our job is to try and make every touch point that a brand has, every time a customer touches your brand, to make it a positive one.
So the psychology you talked about earlier is bleeding into that of what do these colours emote in regard to feelings, and that, I assume, that type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so what you want from design is obviously an affinity with the audience, but importantly, brand recall. So in your case, you now have a very, very unique brand. So and hopefully users will be able to recall it straight off.
Yeah.
But a lot of it comes down to brand communication more than anything as well. So. Nowadays it's good practice to get a copywriter and a marketer to help you position accordingly to your market, and to really be saying things that resonate in a human-centric way with your customer base.
Okay.
And trying to avoid it just all being about you, and try and make it about them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then also, there must be an element, I guess, of ensuring there's when you're looking at employees as well, that it represents what they are as well, and for them represents, I guess, some identity for them as well, as part of, because ultimately they're often the front-facing people in the business, that it motivates them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, brands are really effective tool of bringing your customers and team together around a common purpose. I think many rebranding exercises are actually about team motivation and to make the team believe in what the company's doing. So yeah, that's an important part of any rebranding exercise, is to not just get the team to buy into it, but to re-establish values and re-establish attitudes and things like that. So it can be a very, very effective tool for team motivation and bringing positivity and a brighter future.
Yeah, absolutely. And generally, I kind of use the word tips and advice around branding. Because I guess some people as well try and do it in house as well. Is that a method that you obviously much prefer to be doing the work for them, I'm sure, but is that something people should always really try and seek, that professional advice, to, even if it's just an opinion, to make sure they're going down the right angle? Yeah,
I think there's a plethora of different design services available nowadays, but it's much more than just design from a branding perspective. It really does deserve some thought and some strategic awareness of whereabouts you want to be positioned in the market. So So for me, that's it's not something you have to go over the top on. You know, there's plenty of branding services which will waste your time doing things which you don't really need. But it's something you have to live with as a business for a long period of time as well. You know, so we help businesses with things like naming and modeling and things like that as well. But you have to. If it's a brand new business, you have to live with that name for potentially decades. So it's not something that should just be cast off. And the thing about if you get your branding right, then you can. I don't want to go into marketing speech, but you know you can develop this tribe, and this tribe will develop referral for you. It's a really important aspect, and it does deserve more than just knocking something together or using a cheap design service. I mean, half of the battle is really understanding who you are and how you're different. And I guess if you can answer those questions yourself, then by all means use a design service which will get you there. Easily, but in my experience, it's hard for companies to describe themselves. You know.
And for yourself, your own kind of general life self development in the business environment, is that just continuing learning the latest trends, educating yourself, I guess, through online stuff and things like that?
Yeah, I'm lucky because I get real deep insights into my clients' businesses. So they're really open with us, and because I kind of love business and understand business and want to know more. I mean, that's really I've got a lot to be thankful for the experiences that I get from my client base. And I learn a lot off them, and where I can, we apply our tools and knowledge to help them digitally adapt, I think.
Yeah. And the future for yourself, for your business, just continue to grow, continue to service clients, and
yeah, we had huge plans because it was a new decade. So January was all about developing the business, and we had big aspirations of where we wanted to go, and we were doing all of these presentations and all that kind of thing to the team. Of course now that seems like absolute nonsense, but so we had big plans, and we were developing other businesses as well, different platforms and things like that. All of which have now unfortunately been delayed. It's kind of, for me, it's kind of see this year out and start again next year. Although we are, at the same time, we've been forced to look at ourselves and adapt ourselves for a low-touch economy, start to think about how we're communicating, and there's an element of rebranding in there. There's a lot of writing to do, and we're also being aware of what new markets we might be able to reach.
I hear that quite a bit from people. While it's a peculiar time at the moment, it's also a time to assess what you're doing. Are you doing it the right way? Can you do it other ways as well? So there are positives, I guess, to take out of the situation. People want to reach out to you, Andy. What's the best way to do that?
Come to our website, dotperformance.com, and you can book a meeting on there. And if you want to book a meeting with me, you're more than welcome.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, I'll add them to the show notes on the podcast. And I appreciate your time for joining me today.
No, thank you.
Thanks again for listening. Be back soon.